The salty air drifts off the Atlantic Ocean, brushing against the desolate, windswept stretch of Gilgo Beach. It's a place where the gentle crashing of waves is interrupted by an unnatural stillness, a haunting silence that seems to echo the horrors buried within the sandy soil. For years, this coastline carried a sinister secret, concealed just beyond the tangled marshland where the bones of the forgotten lay scattered like grotesque breadcrumbs left behind by something monstrous. It all began with a frantic search for a young woman. Shannon Gilbert, a 24-year-old sex worker, vanished on the night of May 1st, 2010, after a panicked 23-minute call to 911. Her voice, quivering with terror, repeated the same desperate plea. "They're trying to kill me." She fled barefoot through the darkness, pounding on doors, begging for help. But the night swallowed her cries, leaving only questions in its wake. When investigators scoured the area in December of that year, they weren't expecting what they found. Not Shannon Gilbert, but the skeletal remains of 4 other women, all wrapped in burlap. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Barthélemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. 4 young women, all sex workers, all missing for years. And that discovery was only the beginning. In the years that followed, the bodies of several more victims were uncovered along the desolate stretch of Ocean Parkway. Some of them brutally dismembered, others decomposed beyond recognition. The true horror of what would become known as the Long Island serial killer case began to take shape. A pattern of violence and death hidden in plain sight. But for over a decade, the identity of the predator remained a mystery. The media spun endless theories. Was it the work of a single killer? Or were there multiple murderers hunting on the same hunting ground? Why the burlap wrappings? Was it a twisted signature or simply a practical means of disposal? The questions piled up as more bodies were discovered. At least 10 victims by 2011, with some believing the number could be even higher. But Shannon Gilbert's body wouldn't be found until December 2011, over a year after her disappearance. Her remains lay submerged in a watery marsh, separate from the other victims. Police would later label her death as an accident, a tragic misfortune, caused by her running into the night, disoriented and afraid. But her family never accepted that explanation. To them, Shannon was yet another victim of the same killer that haunted the shores of Long Island. For years, the case seemed to rot under the weight of bureaucracy and incompetence. Officials came and went. Promises were made only to be broken. And through it all, the families of the victims were left clinging to the hope that someone, anyone, would take the nightmare seriously. But then, something shifted. For over a decade, the case of the Long Island serial killer loomed like a storm cloud over Suffolk County, its shadow growing darker with each year of fruitless investigation. Families of the victims grew restless, accusing law enforcement of neglect and incompetence. And perhaps they were right. Political corruption, tangled jurisdictional disputes, and allegations of police misconduct only deepened the chilling mystery. But then, in the summer of 2023, everything changed. A shocking breakthrough ripped the cold case out of stagnation and hurled it into the blazing heat of public scrutiny. The name Rex Heuermann emerged from the shadows, a burly, bespectacled architect from Massapequa Park, living an unassuming suburban life, just a stone's throw away from where the bodies were found. The arrest was nothing short of surreal. Heuermann, a man who had quietly built a successful architectural business in Midtown Manhattan, had been hiding in plain sight. A married father of 2 with no prior criminal record, his calm, collected demeanor did nothing to hint at the twisted nightmare unfolding behind the scenes. Investigators had been scrutinizing Heuermann for months. His name surfaced during a reinvigorated investigation by a task force formed in early 2022, dedicated to finally unraveling the mystery of the Long Island serial killer. This new team approached the case with relentless precision, applying modern forensic techniques and fresh perspectives to what had become a tangle of evidence and speculation. The trail leading to Heuermann was riddled with unsettling details. Cell phone records placed him at the very sites where the victims' bodies were found. Even more damning, searches of his computer revealed a disturbing obsession with sadistic pornography and violent images of women. His online activity was a chaotic blur of darkness, a deep dive into the very horrors he was allegedly enacting upon his victims. But it was the burlap sacks that served as the smoking gun. Police believe Heuermann deliberately used the coarse material as part of his sick ritual. The rough texture was practical for moving bodies, but also left a twisted signature behind, one that eventually helped investigators piece together his crimes. The arrest sent shockwaves through the community and beyond. Journalists scrambled for interviews with his bewildered neighbors, who described him as a quiet man, a regular fixture in their everyday lives. No one had suspected the man who shared small talk over backyard fences was hiding something so monstrous. But the arrest of Rex Heuermann did not mark the end of the investigation. Quite the opposite, it only raised more questions. How many victims were there truly? Was he working alone, or was this the work of a more expansive operation? And if the latter, who else was involved? Public pressure mounted and the task force dug deeper. They were determined to dismantle the web of violence piece by piece, even if it meant unearthing other dark secrets that Long Island had buried for years. Heuermann was officially charged with the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello, but with several more bodies still unidentified and the specter of other killers possibly lurking, the investigation was far from over.